I hope you do. If there is a bit of echo, so sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please do use the chat. We kind of see it. I look very closely. Thank you, Martina. Hi. So our colleagues and friends are joining. That's amazing.
Hello to Bratislava and good morning from New York.
Exactly. I say good morning, but it's good afternoon, actually. So, warm welcome to all of you joining us online. Welcome to our speakers that I will introduce in just a minute. My name is Zuzana Sterinova. I'm a policy manager at MCHEM Slovakia. For those of you who don't know, MCHEM is one of the most active business communities in Slovakia. But I'm expecting to see many members, friends, and partners here on this live stream. So you probably very much know, and thank you for being here. So just, I won't say last week, but it was this week, just time flies. On Tuesday, we had our ESG conference in Bratislava, which was a great success, thanks to all of our amazing speakers and members who joined us. And we picked a special date for this conference, as it took place during the New York Climate Week, which is still happening here in New York. And we wanted to bring it to you. So we came to New York, super excited to be here. And today we want to open a few topics that we and people here in the city talked about in more than 1,000 events in the city. So this is taken as a continuation of the ESG conference. We've never stopped, and we continue. So to start with, Vladimir Lackovic is sitting here next to me. Latko, I want to say welcome, but you are welcoming me.
It's welcome to Slovakia in New York.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Consulate General. So this is actually a little piece of Slovakia in New York City.
It's wonderful to be here. It's really nice, breathtaking actually, this room and the space. So thank you for having me. And please tell our audience a bit about yourself. What do you do here? Where are we? What's our event?
Of course. So hello everybody. My name is Vladimir Lackovic, and it's a pleasure to welcome you here. But I'm glad that you came for Climate Week, and I'm glad that we have a really great cooperation with American Chamber of Commerce or NCHEM Slovakia, and we have done multiple events together. And I think this cooperation is growing, and I'm really pleased with that. So what I do, so I'm the special representative to the US for trade and investment from SARD, which is the Slovak Investment and Trade Development Agency. And we opened our office back in February. So this is a new endeavor that we have here in the US. And basically my job consists of two things. Primarily, my goal is to bring American investors to Slovakia, to convince them to invest, to create jobs, to contribute to our economy, and we're focusing specifically on knowledge economy. So robotics, biotech, advanced manufacturing, companies that are investing in AI. So that's my primary job. But also my job is to help Slovak companies to expand, to come to the US market, to grow here, and to establish themselves. So I often help companies with their go-to-market strategies and introductions to partners, and so on and so on. So it's a new thing that we're doing in Slovakia, and a really important thing, because if we want to have a growing startup ecosystem and to have some unicorns, it has to go through the US market, and it's the biggest market for companies in the world. It's really exciting, but we need to do a lot more to help our companies.
Yeah, you do a lot. And maybe to add to that, why is it important to have representation here in the US? Can you do that from Slovakia, I would say?
Most countries, our neighbors and most countries in Europe have this representation because you need to be here in person. What I mentioned before, that we need to help those companies grow here, you need to have those connections, you need to have those partnerships, you need to go in person to those events, not just in New York, but across the whole country. So that's been my job, but I have been here for over 20 years. I know this community, I know how business is done in the US, and it's a little bit different, it's a different culture. So I wish I had a whole team of 50 people who could do really big things, but it's a great start for Slovakia to have this presence, so we can bring companies to Chicago, to South by Southwest in Austin, we can bring them to San Francisco, we can go to Bio Convention in Boston, and have those connections and partnerships already prepared for them. So it's a little extra step that we do to help our companies.
We are very happy that you are here. It's a great cooperation, we see the work you do. And as you mentioned, you've been here for a long time, which means you've been building relationships for a long time. Can you share maybe one or two examples of how solar companies or initiatives have already benefited from the presence here?
Yes, so besides my professional career in marketing and business before, I also am very involved with the Slovak professional community and building those relationships with Slovaks that work across North America. So because of that, for example, I mentioned South by Southwest, which is one of the biggest conferences, technology and creative conference in the world in Austin, Texas. We have been organizing smaller events and building that community and building those relationships for now 3 years. And last year, or this year, 2025, we were able to bring it to the next level. We organized what we call the Slovak House at South by Southwest, where we brought 15 companies from Slovakia, and we brought them for an all-day program, where it was in the middle of South by Southwest, middle of Austin, and we had 250 guests that were all people from Texas government, leaders of the startup community, leaders of economic development, businessmen from all across the country. We curated that list to bring those companies and match them with those people and created a wonderful program that was attended by Secretary of State of Texas. So those are the relationships that we build over time. You can't just come in and organize something that big right away. So that's why it's important to keep doing that work. And I hope that, for example, that one is going to grow this year. But we have organized similar conferences or events, even with Engine here in New York back in March, where we brought some companies where we showcased business service centers, which is a very important segment in Slovakia, and we wanted to attract more. So we organized an event together. Those are the relationships that we have been building for a while.
Yeah, that's really important. And hi to my colleague Peter and the BSCF community in Slovakia. Last question. We are here during the Climate Week. Has Slovakia joined the Climate Week somehow? Were we represented in some way?
Yes, so I'm excited to share that we co-hosted the first and a really successful big event that happened yesterday, last night, and I'm glad that you were able to join. You flew in and directly went to the event. It was called Scaling Solutions with Fortune 100 companies, and we collaborated with a few European partners, Denmark, Netherlands, United Kingdom, and Italy, and we organized an event where we brought venture capital, private equity, investors, we brought corporate people, and we brought climate and climate tech startups into one room, curated list of these leaders, over 120 people. We had a panel of people from UNDP, we had representatives from Mars company, from Kindrill, and then some small panel of startups where we talked about how Climate Week contributes to not just the solution that we need to do on a personal level, but what corporations and companies need to do. And as part of that, Slovakia was presented as a leader when it comes to clean energy. And I think that is a really important debate lately. We all know that 85% of our energy comes from clean energy sources, and we're an exporter of energy. There are only 2 countries in Europe that are exporting energy right now. That's Slovakia and France, and that resonates in the US because the big topic is AI, right? we can debate whether AI is good for climate or not, but that's part of the climate week discussion. And Slovakia, because of that, is really, really interesting for investors and for people that want to talk about climate and AI.
I can confirm the event was spectacular, and I felt really proud to see Slovakia there on the stage, represented by you. So, thank you. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you for answering a few questions, and I hope for more cooperation.
We will definitely have a lot more, and I'm excited, to join you. And hello to Bratislava. I'm excited to see you all in person soon, and let's get to the better part of the discussion right now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, the seat is empty because we are welcoming our recurring guest. Gaia Arzeli is here with us in New York. I'm sure you remember Gaia because she's not easy to forget.
You're very kind. You're very kind. Hello, everyone. Really lovely to see, well, not to see you, but to know that you are on the other side of the camera. And nice to see you in New York again.
Yes. Thank you so much, Gaia. For those who don't know you, maybe, can you introduce yourself? Because you do a lot of amazing things. So please.
With pleasure. I just would like to highlight the fact that this past week felt like a month. So I'm a little bit tired on Friday morning as it is morning here in New York. But just to, as a way of introducing myself, I'm Gaia. I'm the commercial director for A-Word. A-Word is a digital tool that allows and enables companies to engage and educate their people, either their workforce or their customers, on climate change and sustainability, so to transform every single person in your company, regardless who they are and their job title, into an active protagonist in your company strategy.
Thank you. We kind of dived in already to the climate week. For many watching, maybe not everyone knows what's Climate Week, New York Climate Week. It may sound abstract, maybe. Could you explain what it is, why it's happening, what's going on?
I'll do my best to do so. It is definitely one of the most important weeks of the year, particularly if you are focused on climate change, sustainability, ESG, and the Sustainable Development Goals. It is at the same time as the United Nations General Assembly, where all of the high-profile politicians and representatives from 193 states congregate to discuss how we are going to set up the right political framework to reach the goals that we want to achieve. And so simultaneously we have Climate Week New York, that is a gathering of over 1,000 events. So this year, despite the political uncertainties, has been the biggest week so far. We see representatives from businesses, philanthropy, NGOs, and foundations coming together, not just to talk about pledges, but actually to demonstrate what has been achieved in the year that just passed and what we are about to do in the year to come. So definitely one of the most important dates in our calendars, along with COP and a couple of others during the year.
One of the busiest weeks, for sure.
Yeah, as I was saying before, because of the sheer number of events, and maybe some of you have had the pleasure to visit New York in the past, Manhattan is quite widespread, and the events are spread across town, so you tend to have 3, 4, 5 engagements per day, and you are moving around town as a pinball, and a lot of the city is blocked when political figures come to the United Nations to discuss. Maybe a point to mention, it is maybe worth mentioning that A-Word is also the official platform that the United Nations uses for the flagship campaign called ACNA. So we have a citizen-focused campaign that reaches the masses around the globe and has managed to aggregate so far 27 million plus positive actions for the planet. And so we do have the pleasure to go to the United Nations and discuss what we have seen on the market, what we have seen globally, and really how can we help to democratize those content to everybody. Because if we keep them secluded within our business world or only in the hands of the leadership team and the sustainability team, unfortunately, we're not going to reach those targets that we have set up.
Wow. I've got questions on that
Please.
later. But back to all the people visiting, because it's really busy and many people are here from all kinds of areas. Why is it important that this week they meet here? What kind of, because you mentioned COP, maybe what kind of decisions are being made here? What kind of conversations are people having? How can you imagine this?
To echo a point that Vladimir said just ahead of me, for as much as digitalization has enabled us to collaborate across the globe, the in-person meetings are so fundamental to build long-lasting relationships that are on a human level, first and foremost, to enable us to also pack up some hope that then we can bring back into our businesses and to really make sure that we fully understand that sustainability and climate change is a business opportunity, not just a struggle, not just something that businesses have to do with reductions and changing our business model, but it's a fantastic opportunity to rethink our systems, our businesses, and our way of life. And it is so important to be here and have these, not just one-to-ones, but to move away from, like we mentioned before, the pledges and the big values, and to go down to the nitty-gritty and see, okay, which are the companies leading and in spite of what has happened on the political front. Fortunately, we have seen that businesses are really moving forward, they're moving at a pace. And there was a statement made by CDP, the organization obviously doing out reporting, showcasing how companies that are changing their business model to align sustainability with their value and their financials are 10% more profitable already than companies that are not. So this is not just a matter of it is nice and we have to do it because it is good for the planet. It is. But it makes business sense. And for as much as a lot of companies would like to believe that we are already in the Netflix area, a lot of them are still blockbusters. So this is not a matter of it just makes sense. It will be ensuring that our businesses will remain pertinent, profitable, and positive in the years to come.
So it's a real opportunity.
It is definitely a real opportunity. And you asked me, what have I seen? I have some notes, so allow me, because there has been some incredible announcement made this week. For example, Unilever started to expand their business model and their sustainability towards their supply chain, so not just internally, but also towards their supplier. We have seen IKEA announcing how they have managed to create renewable bundlings for their suppliers across 27 different countries, so not going beyond their own, going beyond their own office space and their own shops, and all the way to their suppliers. We have seen announcements from McCormick that highlighted how we have to move away from morality and into materiality. So now it is the moment where we have to merge our value proposition at company level with sustainability, and at the same time really find use cases that can showcase how every company is doing it. Because pledges are amazing, but it is action that brings hope. And it is a constant conversation from top down, bottom up. That it's a never-ending story. If it was easy, we would have done it already.
So could we conclude your experience at the Climate Week, maybe not only this year, but the years before, as both inspiring, actionable, maybe a little overwhelming? Would you add something?
You nailed it. You really pinpointed it. It is an honor to be here and to be able to witness what's happening. But it is definitely overwhelming. The days are long, but the brain is fired up. And again, every year on year, we see the results that the previous year conversations have brought forward.
Amazing. That's really good to hear. I would like to move on maybe to some reflections on the global progress, because you just said that we're not hitting the targets, and I was a bit like, so it's confirmed. So we're halfway to 2030, beyond.
Beyond halfway, unfortunately.
So we're not moving fast enough?
Unfortunately, no. The scientific facts show us how, with our trajectory, we're going to hit 3.1 degrees in temperature rise. Even if all the pledges were reached, we're still going to face a 2.1 degrees increase. The University of Potsdam has established actually a very important record just this week. They showed us how we have already breached 7 out of 9 environmental constraints across the globe. But this is not said, I don't want to be pessimistic. These indicators are fundamental, especially in light of what was said. I'm sure you have all seen the headlines of what the President of the United States has stated at the United Nations General Assembly, and yet science tells us a different story. So the main thematic here is, what is the cost of inaction versus the cost of action? The cost of inaction for businesses and for the globe actually is going to be 3 to 4 times more than if we acted now. So the numbers, and here I'm going to say it because I don't want to give the wrong number, but we see that the cost of inaction every year will cost the business community $20 to $24 trillion per year. That's roughly 15 to 16% of every country GDP, to give a framework. While instead the cost of the net zero transition will cost every year 6.5 trillion. We have to put this into the human perspective. We already know that roughly 1.5 billion people will be displaced by 2050 due to climate change and the impact that it has on soil erosion, water level increase, biodiversity losses, etc., etc. So this is not something that we can avoid. It's just a matter of what side of history we want to be at. And fortunately, the business community is maybe feeling that gap that we currently have with policy not acting as fast enough. And the good thing about being so close to 2030 is that I think we are seeing this merge between finance, values, and sustainability merging together so that we can make sure that we are moving at a pace. We have seen, for example, the most successful investments so far with regards to renewable energy. The Development Bank has invested this year, in 2024, $137 billion in renewable energy. We see different pledges taking place around the world, despite the fact that the US has, for example, decided to cancel $13 billion in subsidies for renewables. So there is definitely a policy risk happening right now, but the business community is showing us that there is a lot more continuity than discontinuity, because it makes business sense. And if it makes business sense, businesses are going to continue to do it. Another thing that was very much highlighted this year, which I didn't see in the past, is the connection between climate change, nature, and health. Mm-hmm. So fortunately, we have seen how a lot of businesses, you take PepsiCo, you take McCain, you take a lot of the food, large businesses and corporations around the globe are incredibly intertwined with the state of nature. If soil erosion prevents or worsens your food yield for that year, the cost of primary sources is going to increase, the cost for businesses is going to increase, and so of course it's going to be more expensive for the consumer to buy primary food, but also not just primary food, also food that we enjoy to eat. So now we're seeing this connection of saying, if we invest in nature-based solutions that improve the soil, improve biodiversity, and ensure that we are improving also the quality of water, it's good for nature and it's good for business. And that is definitely, and obviously good for health, because we see this correlation between the state of nature and our health. The pandemic should have taught us definitely something more. Unfortunately, it hasn't, but we should have learned a lot more from that experience.
It's a really good point, and I think Latka sitting here, it was mentioned also yesterday at our event. We've seen what was coming, and well, we haven't seen what was coming with COVID, so we weren't prepared. But now we do see what's coming. We could be prepared, but we are somehow not, it seems like. So, yeah, but about the targets, Europe has been a leader always setting targets. What is the role of Europe, maybe in comparison to other regions now?
That's a very big question that I'm going to try to answer. Definitely, Europe has been a leader, and CSRD has shown us what can be achieved. It is a little bit unfortunate that the omnibus came about and reduced the number of companies that are now obliged to report, but we are seeing how numerous countries and numerous companies are using those reporting to showcase how they are more investable, how their changed business model is helping them to be more profitable. So definitely my suggestion, particularly for countries across Europe, because Europe, as much as we are a united front, is still made of 27 individual countries, is don't wait for a yearly report, don't wait to be forced, not forced is a strong word, don't wait to be incentivized by the European Union to report. Use this opportunity to identify certain elements across your supply chain. Do a study of 90 days, we identify one area and showcase how you are improving in different areas, also because it will make you more investable. And maybe reporting for reporting's sake was wrong, but we are really a testimony across Europe of how we are moving beyond a checking box exercise and really implementing this because it makes business sense. And again, we are businesses. We all have to make a profit. We all have to make a profit to stay alive, but profit and loss and sustainability should always go hand in hand and not just be in a separate item.
Preach.
Let's hope we're going to move faster.
That can be our slogan. Okay, what slogans? Net zero is a big word connection. What's behind this? What are the opportunities? What are the risks of falling short?
It's a very good question, because by being in the United States, we have seen how we're in a moment of terminology fatigue. So companies here no longer identify their ESG strategy, they have changed their name, and not to go into some stickiness with the political unwillingness. So we're now called the sustainable development, net zero, ESG, sustainability. Honestly, personally, just pick the term that is most suitable to you and your business. It doesn't matter how you call it, it matters what you do. And this is definitely an industry or an element that is not new. Science has been telling us the constraint and the challenges and the opportunities for over 70 years. This is an opportunity for all of us. So pick the term, identify what it is, but it's not just hope. You know, until a few years ago, we talked a lot and often about the low-hanging fruit. What can you do as a business that will improve your values, your supply chain, and your business model? What we are seeing now is a convergence of saying, if you are still thinking about your low-hanging fruit, you're not moving fast enough. This is a rethinking of our entire business model so that we can make sure that we are truly prepared and competitive at the end of the day and positive. An item that kept being highlighted during this week is about collaboration. Businesses cannot act alone. You cannot be independent from the other business community. Again, like the example I've said before, you might be a company that produces a B2C product, but at the end of the day, you're dependent on farmers that are working the land, and farmers are dependent from pollinators. I had the great honor to go to the preview of a movie that is going to come out in the first quarter of 2026 called Be Wild. It's part of the Bee campaign, part of the Rewilding campaign, obviously focusing on the pollinator. And I was appalled, and I hope this is not ruining the premiere by saying it, to learn that across the United States, pollinators are moved around to where the big production, for example, of almond trees are, because they are monoculture, they have destroyed the entire ecosystem. We're talking about production that in America, across Europe, we cannot even imagine. We don't have this type of very large farming size of land. And so pollinators are moved across the land in the moment in which they need to pollinate and then taken again somewhere else. And unfortunately, we have seen the impact of certain type of pesticides, and the fact that could kill up to 80% of all the pollinators that go to the specific region then die because of the type of pesticides that we use. So to link it back to my original statement was, we cannot be independent, we have to collaborate. I know the businesses by nature are competitive, but at the same time we have learned that interconnectedness in the long term and also the short term, realistically, will bring us more positiveness than if we decide to act alone. Work more, thanks to also the work that you do, and that Sario does as well, really be pushed to think beyond your walls and try to understand how we're all dependent on nature, and if water is not there, soil is degraded, just can't do our businesses.
I'll just be preaching everything you're saying today. Thank you. And Bill does know about the movie.
I know, I cannot wait when it goes out. Shout out to the creators. And again, I hope I didn't overstep by mentioning that I was that.
I'm sure not. Again, to wrap up this section, are there maybe industries or particular business models that give you hope, that you kind of see working?
I'm a very optimistic and hopeful person, particularly after weeks like this where I see a lot of announcements and see a lot of conversations. I don't know if I can shout out to any other business, but then I've already done so. But what brings me a lot of hope is to see this interchange. Let's take Google, for example. It's a tech company. It's a massive tech company. And because we talked about, just touched upon AI earlier on, we see a company like Google using satellite data to understand the impact that the airplane curtail. You know, when a plane flies, that thing that remains after the plane as a curtail, that's actually more environmentally impactful than what comes out of the engine when the plane flies or when it's on the land. And what Google is doing, they are working with sustainable aviation fuels initiatives and a lot of flying companies to understand how can we use satellite data and AI modeling to decrease 30, 40, 50% CO2 emissions in that curtail so that we can improve the business model. Again, I don't have any secondment with them. I hope I'm not overstepping. That's just something that really stayed with me because it's something I didn't even think about before. And we're seeing, I talked a lot about agriculture as well, but because we are humans, we need food. Without good food, we're not going to survive. It is so important to see the trajectory The scientific trajectory tells us that we are going to lose more than 50% of biodiversity by 2100. When you read these statements and you see this data, you're like, no, I have to absolutely do something to prevent this from happening. And we already know that we have lost up to 70% of all the number of species of biodiversity since 1970. So in our lifetime, no, not so many, depending on your age, but roughly our lifetime. And it is so scary, but again, you want me to be hopeful, and I want to remain hopeful that companies are really doing it, and business and governments too. It's not just companies, it's definitely businesses too.
I'm just writing down all the statistics.
I appreciate them afterwards.
But I'm grateful for your hope, and I hope we can also keep it throughout the conversation and throughout the next years.
I've used something this week quite often, and it is one man shouting at the sea is not going to stop the tide. So remain hopeful, act, do everything that you can, and make sure that we are bringing people with us, because there is nothing worse than creating amazing strategies and pledges and working and then keeping this information just within the leadership team. We really need to make sure that every single person in our businesses and our communities understand that there is no action that is too small. I had the pleasure of meeting Jane Goodall this week, who, for those of you who might not know, she is a leader in chimpanzee, conservation and science. She's 91 years old, incredibly smart, very sharp, and she highlighted we all make choices every day, and those choices signal to our businesses and to our government what type of life we want to do. So choose wisely. What we buy, what we eat, how we move. Obviously, this is what we do in the world too, so I'm a big promoter. But really, no action is too small, and speak up. Don't wait around. Definitely don't feel alone. Find your community and do more.
Thank you. Yes, we will do. Gaia, I also want to touch upon, I know you've been in New York already, you haven't said you've been with us in Slovakia on Tuesday, but we did have our huge conference, ESG conference. We talked a lot about regulations. It's a huge topic, of course, especially in Europe. We went through ESG in business practice and how companies live ESG in their everyday lives, externally, internally. We talked about energy, we talked about innovations, green tech. We covered really many topics, and then we organized 2 workshops on like practical actions people, companies can do in the social dimension of ESG. So it was big topics. When I list it like that, what do you think? Do you hear those topics being talked about on the global stage as well, or are we somewhere in the middle, or how do you compare it maybe to the conversations here in New York?
First of all, sad to have missed it. It did sound like an incredible event, very round, and I'm glad that you touched upon the social aspect. In the United States, right now, in these 9 months that feel like 9 years, let's say that the social aspect has been slightly pushed under the rug, swept under the rug because of the political uncertainties. But I see businesses have not stopped. They just renamed it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no longer called diversity and inclusion. It is called human development or people development. And it is definitely a key area for companies across the globe, but not just across Europe. But, you know, we could sit here and have definitely a 5-hour conversation just on this aspect. We don't have that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think If we have been in business for over the 20 years, which I have, I am so blessed, I am so happy to see how the social aspect is changing us from a human level. And we no longer, most of us, at least across Europe, feel scared. And actually, we are voicing up, not because we just need to, not because it's a trend, but because it improves us as humans. As humans, we want to connect with like-minded people. Nobody likes to be just alone and somewhere alone. There was an amazing sentence by the gentleman that is the one second, his name is skipping my mind, but is a book and a movie was done about him called Into the Wild, quite famous. And he wrote this sentence that says, "Happiness is only real when shared." That truly resonates across the business community as well as our human community. If you see a colleague that is sad and doesn't feel like himself or herself, then you feel like you should go there and help that person out. This social aspect that makes us better humans. What we see across the globe is an impoverishment of our spirit. So the social aspect of ESG is ensuring and improving us and propelling us forward. It's a big promoter of that, obviously.
And it's a huge topic encompassing many others. So thank you. Into the Wild, I forgot the name.
His name is
so please write us.
Alex Supertramp. That's it. Okay. Well, that's the name that he gave himself. I don't remember his original name. If you do know, please do share it in the chat because I can't believe I quoted him and then forgot. But again, I'm sorry. I'm so tired after this week. It's crazy.
We understand. Please also do write your questions. We don't see them just yet because they're a bit further away. I have just 2 more questions for Gaia and then we'll read your questions. So thank you. Gaia, I think I can consider you a fan of Slovakia.
Definitely.
Thank you. When you think about Slovakia or Central Europe, what role can small economies maybe play in the global climate transition?
That's a very big question that I hope I will be able to respond. I'm definitely a big fan of Slovakia. I worked in Bratislava for just short of 5 years, so definitely a fan. And you say small economies, but we can't really say that. Because yes, it is a small economy compared to the global GDP, but there is a lot of power in smaller economies that are more resilient and definitely can push forward. So to reiterate just an example that was bringing forward, as an economy, identify your strength and propel them forward. Identify what is the area. Is it agribusiness? Is it energy? I have seen some feedback from your event on Tuesday, and it really highlighted your power in the energy matrix. So identify what it is and then show the investment community how strong you are. Just don't lag behind. This global interconnectedness, of course, is going to bring a lot of positive, but we have to remember that we are all individual parts in a global scenario. And as the usual sentence says, think global, but act locally. So you have space. Is it diversifying your energy mix? Is it bringing forward better agricultural practices? Is it from a real estate development going to attract more businesses to Bratislava? Is it all of the above? Yes. So definitely a big role to play, and the European Union is showing us how we all have a role to play. I hope I answered without going too much into details.
No, definitely. And you've left us with some really good advice. I think we'll listen. Can take it with them already, but maybe one more time. If you had one piece of advice for business leaders back home. Something they should start doing or continue doing. What would it be?
Hopefully continue to do.
Yeah.
Don't report yearly, report quarterly for your internal stakeholder and for your external shareholders. But that 90 days framework really allows you to do sprints and change your mindset, because you can identify one area, test it for 90 days, see the results, and then adjust how you're going to move forward. Unfortunately, when you report yearly, it's much more difficult. If you already report yearly, for those that don't report, please start. But the year-to-year cycle is really complicated, particularly when you have a business that is very interconnected and quite spread around. Again, if you are a consultancy or a knowledge-sharing business, that's slightly different. But if you're a business with a supply chain and a product, and you have infrastructure, and you have obviously mobility requirements of your people as well as your product, don't wait. I don't like to call them low-hanging fruit, like I said before, we are past the low-hanging fruit era, but really identify and then merge and push different departments together. Have the supply chain team meet with the product team regularly, meeting with the innovations team, with the sustainability team. This is a team sport. This is not a one-size-fits-all or anything of that. It's a little bit like if we were playing football, the here it's called soccer. Every single player has a fundamental role to play. But if that player played in isolation, there would not be football. So we all have to come together on a regular basis. And you might not realize that someone in the legal department might have a cutting-edge idea that could solve something in the product team that the product team didn't even think of doing. So 90 days sprints to that. That's my 5 cents suggestion for today.
Very practical, thank you. And sustainability is team sport. Is something we take with us as your slogan.
Definitely, sustainability trickles down across every single function. It should not be considered like a separate department. Sustainability, values, and finance. So make sure that your your Chief Sustainability Officer, and your Chief Financial Officer are best friends. Because we can no longer afford to think sustainably without touching the financial piece. Sustainability makes business sense, and you must do.
Wow.
Should we go and read what's happening there?
Thank you for answering all my curious questions. So I'm going a bit closer so that I can see, maybe even closer. So Ernest, hi, Zuzka, welcome to a country where IT leasing is an integral part of the sustainability and ESG strategy of most companies. In a country where using IT for business growth is more than its ownership. There was a comment.
Oh, there was a comment?
There was a comment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernest.
Keep them coming, it should be a conversation, please.
For sure.
We're so tired of people talking at us.
Yes, please do ask your questions. Martina is asking, major takeaway from Climate Week 2025? A different one from what you mentioned maybe. And Vlatko, please maybe join. We all have takeaways from this week.
We all have takeaways. The tide didn't stop. So the main takeaway is that optimism is definitely translating into business continuity. So there is not just hope, there is real life case scenarios of how this is making sense. And we didn't know, I do have to highlight this, we didn't know if this year we were going to be just 100 people. We are obviously just shadowing COP30 that is going to take place in Belen, and this year it's quite a complicated COP because of where they have decided to do it. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that, but it will be unfortunately quite smaller than previous years. So I'm glad that the business community has gathered here in New York to really signal the political community that this is not a trend. This is in motion, and it will accelerate, and it will accelerate hopefully at a much faster pace, because we can no longer afford inaction. We can no longer afford pledges. Action is what gives us hope.
Very good takeaway.
Anything else?
We don't have anything else yet. Maybe Latka, do you want to join in for this? Maybe we can hear you.
Let me just jump in here.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I didn't participate in as many events as you did during Climate Week, but one of the interesting things I think is what I mentioned before, the discussion that's so focused on AI as part of climate, and how it's different in the US versus in Europe. I think sustainability is, in the business world in the US, is almost not a topic, and that's sad. But when it comes to AI data centers or AI technology, we really need to start focusing on how that is powered. And maybe in the next 1 or 2 years, there's a race to build stuff, but it's going to be important to focus on sustainable development of those technologies. And I think that's where Slovakia can play an interesting role to power up those solutions with clean energy. But it's just, to me, it's really interesting how that climate week conversation is so focused about AI.
Yeah, and we have seen a similar trend also in Davos, at the World Economic Forum, and realistically, almost in all of the international events I've attended over the last couple of years. But you highlighted a very important point. I don't understand how we can progress in the AI conversation without thinking immediately, not later stage, immediately how we can power those data centers in a sustainable and renewable way. I think we should slow down the AI race until we have solved this initial powering issue. Because it is well recorded already how much energy and how much water we need to cool down those data centers. Water. I don't know. You might already know, but
unfortunately, you're not going to change that. That progress is going, and there's so much investment in it. And I think over the next 2 years, they're building diesel-powered data centers in Africa because you don't have that power. But I think the conversation should shift to countries like Slovakia, where you could power them with hydro plants or geothermal plants. But just right now, the business focus is on building it as fast as possible anywhere.
Until a great solution comes about.
Yeah,
I'm often reminded that
I would like to see it.
The era of horses didn't stop because we stopped having horses. It stopped because a better solution came to market. So maybe Slovakia, this is for you. Identify the best way to power data centers sustainably and become a leader worldwide. Well, that's definitely a profitable business to be in, for sure.
And that's what we're focusing on.
Fantastic.
Someone from the audience is texting me because they don't know how to put a question there. They're asking if you have a good example from abroad, from a different region, probably, that Europe could use. In sustainable, in what? I don't know how to understand that question.
Also, kudos to you that Zuzka is reading, obviously in Slovak, translating live for me in English. But...
No, I don't really understand, but maybe the person meant if there is a country, let's say, I'm redoing the question, sorry if you meant it differently, text me. If there is a country that is a leader in sustainability, let's say, if maybe Slovakia, then who can Slovakia look up to? We've heard examples from Denmark, Netherlands yesterday as like leading sustainability countries. Is there something we can follow in that?
I don't think I'm in a position to be. I don't think I can pinpoint a country, but there are best practices all around the globe. There are countries that are already 100% powered by renewable energy, like Costa Rica. We have seen already 2024, if I remember correctly, over 100 days of Portugal were powered by renewable energy. We see, for example, the Nordics, particularly with Sweden and Denmark, not having zero waste to landfill already. So it really depends on which aspect of sustainability we are focusing on, but definitely a lot of examples out there. We should maybe change the way in which we consume the news to only focus on positive news. I would be definitely a big promoter of that. I don't think we choose one. But Europe is definitely leading, but then we see a lot of innovations coming up from Southeast Asia and the African countries and Latin America right now as well. So it depends. Are you looking for I met a gentleman here in New York, and with his business, they're revolutionizing, for example, fruit and vegetable coating. Maybe some of you know that all of the fruit and veg that hits the shelf in the majority of the United States is coated with petrochemicals to maintain their shininess and prettiness, so that you can buy an apple that looks like a cartoon apple. Well, it's made of petrochemicals, that coating, and they are developing a solution that is biodegradable and completely organic. So to change that industry, we see a lot of sustainable fashion companies producing now materials that come from algae, pineapple leather, and definitely sustainable material. So lots of case studies. You're not alone, and just identify those news outlets that you can rely on to have some inspiration and meet people, of course, thanks to the work that scientists.
Amazing. There's one more question for you. Which SDG is the most important as of right now? That's a difficult question.
How can I pinpoint one? Well, definitely, actually, I do have it. Because we are here at Climate Week New York, and we have already covered the importance of collaboration. So I will identify SDG 17 and the goal for partnerships, understanding how only together we can move forward.
Yeah, good one. Good one.
Yeah, but that was going to be typical. I was going to identify something different. There is a push about everything, and even as a business, maybe in that 90 days, I would not suggest to do an SDG every quarter because that's more complicated. But maybe do a test, identify one SDG a year, and follow through with that one. What can you do business-wise to improve a particular SDG, and then rewrite your values and businesses to highlight and to be aligned with a particular SDGs. And if you want to know how you can do it, then I have to give the shout out. But allow me. If you want to know how to do it in a democratized way across your business, to reach out to a word, and we can show you how to do it digitally.
The app is great, so do reach out. Yeah, thank you so much for answering all the questions, for accepting our invitation. Vlatko, thank you for having us here. Thank you to the Slovak Consulate for hosting us. We're super excited to continue this cooperation and to talk and do as action.
Yeah, important. Do. That's definitely the highlight of this week.
Thank you all for tuning in. This video will be saved once I figure out the technicalities. Thank you to all my colleagues for supporting me in this and us. And we'll be back in Slovakia, all of us at some point. So I hope we meet in person. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
Bye.